you ever started something new, working towards a goal, so you're adopting new habits, or you've got a challenge in mind, and then felt a strong urge to quit? This video is for you. There's a lot of advice out there about identity. By adopting this new identity, you'll reach your goal. And while that advice is usually well-intentioned, it can actually make sticking with a habit and achieving the goal harder to reach. And that's because some part of us, when we hear let's shift identity, the body is interpreting adopting or becoming a new identity as a threat. It's hearing this as, who do I have to stop being in order to achieve the goal? Which can, even if we start off well, may begin to undermine the very thing that we're wanting to achieve. And there's various signs that this is actually happening to us. So things like, rather than feeling motivated, you start feeling quite fatigued. The clarity around the reasons perhaps and what you're trying to do is replaced by this pressure and confusion. And then instead of the curiosity of starting something new, you start to question, oh, is this actually really for me? And that often is the moment that we start thinking, oh, should I just quit? Now, there's another way of working with adopting a new habit, working towards a goal that works with the body and not against it. And that is, rather than seeing growth as an identity shift, we start to see ourselves as iterations. This reframe came from my eldest daughter, Tash. I'm eternally grateful for it. It's really helped. Let me explain. We don't become a new version of ourselves by imagining it. We become a new version by iterating, by repeating tolerable experiences. What I love about it is iteration implies learning, not failure, and it just takes a huge pressure off the idea that you need to change identity. So when this urge to quit shows up with those signs I've already identified, it's rarely an insight into something leaning towards an action. It's often housed or originates from the fear, comes from violating prediction. And what I mean by that is we form our predictions from the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves and about our human experience, right? So this is how humans have evolved. And these stories gave us predictability about what works, what doesn't, what's dangerous, what we should avoid. And we present them as stories we tell ourselves about ourselves that might look like, I don't do things like this, or I'm careful, or that's not for people like me. And these aren't beliefs, they're survival summaries. And this is a really important distinction. These survival summaries that we've created for ourselves to keep ourselves safe are conclusions that we've come to that reduce uncertainty. I've got loads of examples of this that I've looked at, even ones that are coming up today. But I'll revert back to my mountain story. So for years, I said, I don't do mountains. I like the look of them. I like to go for the walks, and I'd say I don't need to summit, I don't need to achieve. For some reason I'd say I don't need to achieve the summit to appreciate the beauty. I mean, all sorts of stories, there was loads of them. And although I went up mountains as a child, as an adult in recent years, I just stuck to my stories and never really got into hiking at all, even though I've got beautiful mountains right on my doorstep and I appreciate their beauty, so why wouldn't I want to hike on them? I didn't know that I was running these survival summaries. And slowly over time, I did realise I was maybe keeping my life a little bit smaller, more safe. I was sticking with the familiar, predictable, the manageable. I was just keeping my life pretty safe, staying in the comfort zone, as we say. But I did start edging into extending my walks, my hikes. And I had all the usual responses to that, feeling those unfamiliar sensations, the increased demand on my system, allostatic load, and physically as well, feeling just generally uncertain, that fear of the unknown, that was all there. And in the past, and even still now, sometimes if I'm edging into something new, when those survival summaries pop in and I quit, oh my goodness, the relief you feel. And see if you recognise with this with yourself when you've had these experiences. When you stop the thing, when you quit, suddenly you're met with this relief. And because you have a sense of relief, it feels like it's been the right decision, okay? So we can then reaffirm that with those stories. Oh, well, this isn't for me, or I always do this, or I knew it wouldn't last. And that's why in those moments, oftentimes the quitting doesn't even feel like failure. It just feels like this overwhelming lessening of the load or the weight of the task, and just, yeah, general relief. But the thing with this sense of relief, it just reaffirms an older iteration of ourselves and the old stories. It just reaffirms those. And I think the thing we need to bear in mind is when those survival summaries pop up, to not take them as fact, to understand what this is. This is system feedback, or our body's feeding back to us. We don't need to act on them. We can maybe feel into what they actually mean for us, what's going on emotionally. We can slowly begin to edge into the things we want to do and build up evidence to prove to the contrary. And ultimately, they're not an instruction to quit. They're just information. So what did I do in this situation? I gradually, over time, proved to myself that I could do this, but I didn't do this by changing my identity, forcing myself to be brave, overriding fear. I felt what was going on. I understood the stories for what they were, just stories. And I gradually proved to myself I could do mountains, enjoy them, and even attempted the National Free Peaks. And by doing this, I was a new iteration of myself, and I no longer told myself the stories of I don't do mountains. I mean, this is just one example. What are yours? Can you think of any now? Stories that you're telling yourself that you are a particular way, some survival summaries that you've created to protect yourself. And my invitation, because I'm filming this the day before National Quitting Day apparently, so my invitation is, what are you feeling the urge to quit, and could you sit with what is maybe behind that and take that as information rather than as instruction, not arguing with the story itself, and just recognizing that we're facing uncertainty. And I'd like to add that pausing or not continuing a thing for a moment, having a break from it, isn't quitting. Quitting's when you never come back to the thing. So even if you've started something and it's dropped by the wayside for a short period, this doesn't mean you've quit. It's not permanent unless you make it so. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. And if you're curious about how the nervous system can actually affect our capacity and our ability to adopt new habits, I'll leave a link to a video here that you might find interesting. And it's been wonderful to have you here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.